And if you want the real deal on real estate, then you are in the right place. We've got an exclusive interview with real estate mogul Don Peebles. We're getting tips from a titan. Stay right where you are. Do you ever have too much money? If you want the real deal on real estate, you've come to the right place. Don Peebles is one of the preeminent moguls in the market, and today he's here to share his tips from a titan, including some very surprising suggestions on where to buy and where not to. Joining me now in a Fox Business exclusive, Don Peebles. Thanks so much for joining us. What's your favorite market right now?
New York City.
Really?
Yes.
How come?
Because there's just a limited supply, very small inventory, and huge demand, and it's a global demand. And a close second is Miami, though. Because
why Miami? Because that's a place that really experienced a lot of boom and bust. I mean, you saw 60 Minutes, did a huge story on all the condos that are there that are empty. Makes me afraid of that city.
Miami needs to be looked at like New York City almost. And so Manhattan and then Miami Beach. Miami Beach is the Manhattan. Barrier Island, huge barriers to entry, no real available land, so a very, very strong market because of barriers to entry, no more new inventory that's coming on the line of any quantifiable amount. And then downtown Miami is emerging as a global city. Miami over the past 15 years has really taken its place as a global gateway city. And so we're watching an emerging city and an emerging market assume a place in the globe, and that's a big difference.
Some of the best values, you think, are Chicago, Detroit, and Boston. Why Boston?
Boston, because it's a very broad economy. It's a big focus on downtown urban development, and residents of Boston and the suburbs are moving into downtown. More businesses are moving downtown. So you have a migration into downtown Boston and all of the urban core of Boston, and that makes it exciting.
In Detroit, a lot of opportunity because things are so depressed. What makes you think it's going to come back?
Well, Detroit's problem was, they were a city of 2 million people and the most important city. It's hard to imagine, but 50, 60 years ago, Detroit was the most important city in the United States. What it was one industry town. Right. And now, finally, because of absolute chaos and necessity, they are becoming a more broader economy. And as their economy becomes broader, there's going to be greater opportunity. And real estate's so cheap there.
Yeah.
And now, downtown's becoming more exciting. So people who work in the suburbs where the jobs are actually commuting to live downtown. Interesting.
One of the places that you think is overvalued you would avoid, Austin.
Yes.
I mean, you have a lot of Texas places listed, Austin, Dallas, Houston. You would not get involved there.
No, be broad, look, they've got great tax policy.
Yeah.
But Austin, for example, is a very focused and one-dimensional economy. By and large, it's educational driven and tech driven. And then if you look at what's happened with Dallas, it's always been boom and bust, and it flows with the energy market. And so while it's exciting now and there's some growth now, it's not a stable market, say for example, and it's not a global gateway market. And global buyers pick up the slack when our economy is weak because they see us as being very cheap.
You don't like San Francisco. Why not? I mean, it reminds me of Manhattan. So why is San Francisco no good?
So I like San Francisco, and we've invested and done very well there. But and where we've lost money is because the regulatory process is so cumbersome, and it takes almost a lifetime to get anything built. And until they become more business friendly, and then you combine that with their tax policies, so once you struggle to make money there, then you got to give a big chunk of it back. And I think that's a big challenge there.
Very practical. Under the radar opportunities right now, you say investing in affordable housing. What does that mean?
Absolutely. Look, we've got a new administration coming into New York City as mayor. The de Blasio administration and Bill de Blasio has made it clear that a big focus of his administration is going to be affordable housing. We have a rapid...
There is no affordable housing in Manhattan. I mean, isn't that kind of a joke?
But the sad part is what makes Manhattan such an exciting place is the diversity economically. And we need to have an environment where people who work here and who contribute to the vibrancy of this city can afford to live here. And the way to do that is by incentivizing development of affordable housing. And I see this administration doing that. And I see that also as a big demand in Miami as well. And we're going to see more incentives on that basis as well. And there's no limit to the demand for that product.
Yeah, so you would be more interested in investing in affordable housing than some of the the huge high rises, the very expensive, because in Manhattan and a lot of cities, all we hear about is how the high end is where it's at, that the 3 to 5 million, the big developments, the big money, that's where you can really make money right now. It sounds like you disagree with that.
I disagree, by the way, with that range. For example, the high end is in New York City now is 10 million, 15 million and more. And there's only so many people on the planet that can afford to live in those places. And then where people are struggling is in the financial services industry to a degree, and they're the $3 million buyers, the $5 million buyers. So I'm uncomfortable.
Okay, so
I like the high end.
3 to 5 is no good because that's where all the Wall Streeters can afford to buy, and their bonuses are getting cut and all that.
Exactly. And so I like the super high end, which is a global market, and then I like the idea of affordable workforce housing that is underserved, where we can mix the two of them and create communities that are going to be more reflective of the culture
Yeah.
here.
We were talking during the break about some of the enormous buildings that go up. You don't like those projects?
Oh, I do. I think New York City is one of these markets where there's a demand for almost anything. But the one place that's more difficult is what would be the upscale market in New York. But the high end is doing well, and pretty much anything downtown in Tribeca, the West Village, Soho, they're doing exceptionally well because you're now seeing a migration on the luxury housing from the Upper East, Upper West Side to downtown, where there's more flavor, more excitement, and more cultural and economic diversity.
But still not a lot of schools. So that's what the problem is downtown.
More coming. Look, there's a for-profit school that's that's downtown Avenues, and there are more of them around the country, and that's a wave of the future, too.
What's the biggest mistake that you see people making in real estate right now? What would you warn our viewers about?
Betting that this market's going to continue to escalate at the same pace it's doing right now. Because you've got to look at this market like being in a swimming pool, taking one of these inflatable balls and submerging it underwater and holding it down. And that's what our economy has done for a number of years. And now there's a release. So what happens? The ball comes out, it reaches back to the level, and then pops up. But it doesn't stay up there forever. So we've got to look at the market that way. What's a reasonable basis of appreciation from the time right before the recession started to where we should be now? A reasonable rate. That's where things are going to go.
How do you invest based on that, though? If it's this ball you're holding underwater that's going to come shooting up, to me that makes it sound like I should avoid it. You're the professional, but if I'm the average person, I shouldn't buy anything.
Oh, no, you should buy because prices are going to keep going up. It's in some areas here, look, people need to live in somewhere. People want to live in New York City because it's a great city, and people love Manhattan, Brooklyn, and so they're going to pay a reasonable basis to do that. But housing prices cannot increase greater than the compensation of those who are your customers. And so these $10,000 per square foot buildings, they're appealing to a global elite. That is against the rules. But the rules apply, though, when we're dealing with a market where the actual consumer is a U.S. person, a New York resident, then it's going to have some correlation to where their income growth is.
All right. Thank you. You were fabulous. Will you come back? This is a commitment. People are watching. Will you
Absolutely.
come back? Okay,
I
perfect.
love being on here.
Don Peebles, thanks so much.